I got a testimony. I got a testimony. A testimony. I got a testimony. When I think of the goodness of the Lord and all that He's done for me, my soul cries hallelujah. Thank God for blessing me. He blessed me. He blessed me. He blessed me. Jesus saves. Jesus saves. I got a testimony and I'm here to say He saved me.
Hi, my name is Lacey Watson. I want to welcome you to another episode of Testimonial Tuesdays in the Temple, where today's guest will be Ron Gee. Hi, Ron. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you for joining me. I just want to thank you for sitting down with me in the temple, where we share our testimony and kind of just dive in and give God the glory and see how we got this far. Sometimes we forget to, let everybody know how we got this far with
Yes.
Him, and then how we got this far before we got into that relationship with Him. So, Ron, tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Well, I go by the name is Ron Gee, son of a pastor. My dad's name is Ronald Gilmore. He's on with the Lord now. So I get my name from Ron Gee. Grew up on the party side of Indianapolis. Yeah, just Ron Gee.
So, Ron, tell me, what was it like growing up as a pastor's kid?
Well, so I ended up being raised in foster care. My dad ended up impregnating my mom. She was like 16, and my mom, she was addicted to drugs and whatnot. But I got 3 more siblings. So long story short, me and my siblings, we spent majority of our life in foster care. Yeah, really. Got in there about 6 or 7 years old, and then been, in there. So.
Were you together in foster care, or were you
Yeah,
separate?
so we was actually lucky. We were separated for a little bit, but we ended up finding, a couple ended up taking us in. Well, my sister first, and then we was able to come all over there after like a week or so. So that was like very exciting when they're like, hey, we're about to go here, your sister over here. The next thing you know, you listen, they're like, oh, this might be our home. So we stayed there for a little bit, and then we ended up going to we ended up getting adopted at. So this lady, she had 2 boys, so she ended up adopting all 4 of us.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how I ended up getting my last name. Yeah.
So tell me tell me how did growing up in foster care affect you as who you are today?
Well, as I get older, I see how it kind of should have affected me, but I think it just gave me more of a testimony, more of a story.
Okay.
To where the biggest thing is that I only could rely on God.
Absolutely.
And the love that He had for me. So I really didn't look for validation and love through the foster care system or through anyone else, because I knew that God loved me. So it's like, not saying I really didn't have feelings, but it's like, yeah, God seen me through each and everything.
Absolutely. That's a profound statement, and not everybody can speak from that point at that point. So let me ask you, did you always feel that way growing up? Okay.
I didn't. I went through the same thing through the bullying, through the feeling lost, feeling like nobody loved me. Went through all of that until I just had to find my own way, because as long as you got life, it really don't matter where you come from, or what's kind of going on. It's all about where you're trying to go.
Absolutely.
So I learned that. I spent a lot of time in juvenile correction, boys school. So I spent solitary confinement too. So I was able to kind of get my thoughts together as a youth.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you could imagine that, being 14 and a little 23 and old, So
Yeah.
I think I matured that. So once I got 18, started having kids, I started looking at things a little bit different. But I
So
always relied on God. Yeah.
it definitely sounds like you had to grow up fast. Do you mind telling me of some of the pathways that led you to being locked up at a young age?
Being a follower. A homie of mine was breaking their houses on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Just being a follower, and which led me to going to the Department of Correction as a youth, which I got a scar on my arm to remember. Like one day I broke into this house, and I falling through the glass, and so I look at the scar every day. You feel me like, oh yeah, God may had his hand wrapped around me on that one too. So just being a follower, just want to do something. So
Do you feel like that you learned your lesson at that part of your life, or was it later in life that you kind of got a grasp on things?
it was later in life because you still temptation is always out there.
Absolutely.
So it's all about how you fight it. So as I got older, it's like I fight it a little different.
Hmm.
To where I've been after juvenile, all that. I've been victim of gun violence twice, in my life. So I've been shot a few times or whatever. But you just try to make better decisions.
At what point in your life were you introduced to God? Was that from your foster parents? Was that
Yeah, yeah. But it's from the foster parents back in the days when you went to church Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yeah, so that was their foundation. But once I got older and started actually going through things that I knew that only God could pull me out of. That's when I started really having to build a relationship with Him.
so you mentioned being shot a few times. Take me to that point in your life.
So at that point, decision making. So it's after I started my nonprofit called Ceasefire Indy. It was after that I ended up getting shot. So the caption was the founder of Ceasefire Indy shot on the highway Christmas Eve. That was the news caption. So what would get somebody to ask, how could the founder of a Stop the Violence be shot? Which I still kind of ask myself that question too. But for me, when I'm saying like stop the violence, you have to tell yourself that, but you also have to tell those that's around you that too. So a lot of people say I was like a grassroots or
Yeah.
like foots on the ground. So as you kind of like in it, you just be like, okay, man, let's change. So it was Christmas Eve on the highway with my son in the car actually.
So you mentioned your the organization that you started, and then you had the incident where you got shot. What led you to start that organization?
So this is I tell the story, because I started 2019, and it's the same story. I'm laying in bed, and this is the first time like that I knew that God spoke. He was like, "Get on the bus, go to 30th Keystone, and hold the postal board." That's all he told me. Like in my filth, in my just everything that I had going on, he said, "Get on the bus, go to 30th Keystone, and hold a postal board." So as I'm walking, I lived on Raymond and Keystone. So clearly it's just a straight shot.
Hmm.
I only need to take one bus. So it's like he woke me out of my sleep too. So I ended up walking, felt like my feet was floating. I ended up getting on the bus because like you got to think, like me getting on a bus going to the busiest section in Indianapolis with a
Right.
poster board.
Right.
You know
Right.
all the things that was going through my head.
Yeah.
And that's what I knew that God just led me. He said it because it wasn't. I never even knew nothing about how my stories would be able to help people. He never even told me what would come after me getting on the bus. But now as I relive it after I see all of this, that was the first time I like really been obedient to Him, and it really changed my life and it changed other people's life. So I get on that bus stop. I get on that bus, get off on 30th Keystone. I think I only had like $4 in my pocket anyway. Bought a poster board with a marker that says Ceasefire Indy. I just want to see my kids grow. Stood on that bus stop, held it up. I had a red bandana around my face too, so a lot of people didn't know it was me at first. And then it started trending. It started going, and then I started yeah, it started going. So I woke up the next morning. Everybody like, yeah, 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 yeah. Keep going, keep going, keep going, because everybody knew I wasn't perfect,
Right.
but the people needed a voice. You know, the people needed a voice. You know, they needed somebody that was going to be like, okay, let's stand up. You feel me? That's from the hood. That's from
That can
every. They
relate.
needed somebody that give them that voice. So I gave them that voice. Gave us that voice. So after that, the following week, I started doing free barbecues every single Saturday throughout my community in different neighborhoods. And I mean, it was amazing. I mean, God was just working. You know, he said, get on the bus. That's all he told me. From there, he just started leading everything. Everything. And that's been 7, 8 years.
That's amazing. I mean, it's a lot to say right there. It takes a lot to be able to, first of all, turn your negative into a positive.
Yeah.
It's so easy to dwell on the why me, or why did this happen, or take your negative and be able to soak in it and sit in it and feel bad about it. But to be able to learn from your lesson, and more importantly, be in a place, even in chaos, to be able to hear God's voice and listen to God's voice.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we'll hear, but because we're in bad situations, we feel like we can't be used, or he can't
Yeah.
be talking to me because I done, this, and that, or this is how the people will look at me. But to be able to hear God's voice and to listen to God's voice, and then it puts you in a situation where it honestly speaks to what I say all the time, that like sometimes we can't speak to people if we haven't gone through it
Yeah.
ourselves. Some people's not going to listen to you because they can't trust that you can speak into their life, into that situation. But when you're going through all of that, when you've been shot, and when had all that stuff going on, at that moment, I'm sure you didn't see like how this is going to
I
be
didn't.
relatable later.
Yeah, I didn't.
But like if you hadn't have went through that, then you wouldn't have been able to be a voice that people could relate
Right.
to, or would look up to,
Right.
say, what, well, if he's saying it, then
Yeah.
maybe let me stop and listen, because
Yeah.
he real. And so I mean, you sometimes don't think about the bigger picture. We sometimes just are so stuck in the moment that we don't see what God's plan is.
Yeah.
And it's not for us to always see God's
Mhm.
plan. It's for him to move in our lives and for us to be able to listen. So tell me, what did you do from that? What else have you been working on since then?
Um, just walking in my purpose, I guess. At that point, that identified me.
Yeah.
To where they say, hey, I'm a community leader, or after so many years, I could go on Walmart. They'd be like, hey, you changed my life, and things like that. So it just kind of identified me to where I'm still just trying to hold on to,
Yeah.
and still every day asking God, like, what is my purpose? What's next? I'm thankful for all the trials and tribulations. So started doing stuff with the youth. Have a restaurant called 1313 Eatery. Famous for the wings. Just kind of just trying to find my niche. Like I said, started from foster care, but just seeing how the book is just steady getting written.
So
You
is your love for kids, or your love for helping kids, is that from the seat of the foster care?
I think it's not necessarily to kids, but just for overall.
Okay.
Like I got a big hand to where like I always want to help somebody,
Yeah.
especially I would say the underdogs, those that people have, forgotten about, people who refuse to help, things like that. Those are the people that always come my way. But yeah, just being able to be relatable.
Let me ask you this, and it may be a question you may have to sit for a second and think, but can you think of someone that you've encountered, as far as like at one of your rallies, or with your eatery, and don't you had some things where you were helping some kids
Yeah.
get jobs and things? With those things, can you think of a moment where someone maybe gave you some feedback of how you impacted their life, and how that touched you, or how that changed your thought process? Like, I guess I would say maybe like that first feedback that you realize, man, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, I get it a lot, so I guess the story that is kind of easier, or the one that's kind of stick out to me, is I was at my restaurant on Tiffin Drexel before it caught fire. I was out there, it was about 12, 1 o'clock at night, and because I stayed open 24 hours,
Mm-hmm.
so it was like 12, 1 o'clock at night. So I'm out there posted or whatever, just looking at the street or whatever. I see this car ride past, I'm like, well, oh. So then then the car turned around, and the dude hopped out. He was like, Ron Gee. I'm like, what's up? He's like, you don't remember me? You ain't gonna lie, but I'll be like, yeah, I remember, yeah. I usually be like good or bad, because I never
Yeah.
know. You feel me? He's like, it's good. So what long story short, he end up saying, man, you changed my life because I used to rent out rooms. I had like 6 houses to where I rent out rooms to different people, whatever, and I don't remember him, but he's like, man, you don't remember you rented out a room to me and my son, that time, and that really changed my life. I'm married now and everything. I couldn't find you, so I'm just glad that you was outside at this moment, so I'm like, man, okay, let's go, so stories like that, stories like that.
How many kids do you have?
Everybody's my kid.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
Everybody's my kid.
How do you, or what do you input into your kids so that they don't go down the same path that you did?
um I tell them to trust God, but actually with that reality,
Yeah.
um I'm very more realistic with my kids,
Hmm.
you know, because I want them to be able to, in any situation, because there is lions out here, and I don't want them to get ate up. So in any situation, I'm kind of explaining to them, both ways.
When you've mentioned God throughout this whole conversation, when you think about like when your faith got to its deepest, or when you realized that God was the only way, take me to that time.
Man, I think, like I said, started just through my church because at 18, yeah, being in the foster care, whatever, we couldn't go back. You feel me? So
Hmm.
from there, you had to go figure it out yourself. So I really didn't have growing up. I didn't really have that strong support. So I know that God was the one that housed me. God was the one that fed me. And just seeing just little things like that. I count the little blessings. Like time when I didn't have no job and that I get that phone call talking about, hey, you hired. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like those are things where my faith just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. For those little things. So I couldn't really give like exact time on that, but yeah, little things like that where you just don't know how you're gonna make it out, but he always provide. He's
Every
always
time.
there.
Every time.
Yeah.
So tell me how your faith has led to your testimony.
Um, I guess I'm able to share with others. The trials, all the trials, and now I'm testifying about still being here.
Yeah.
Like I said, been probably for my life multiple times, and just knowing that become honored that God uses me. That's where I'm at with it. Because some people be like, man, why do these things happen to me?
Hmm.
Why are they happening to me?
Hmm.
And I'm a firm believer that God uses people. Some people have to go through certain things to be able to share. When He's done with me, I know He's hopefully be glad.
So when you share your testimony now, like where we're at in this moment now, what do you want to be your takeaway? Like, what do you want when people see Ron G? What do you want them to know that's his testimony?
Um, what I want them to know is simple. Trust God. Just trust Him. Don't trust man. Trust God. It doesn't matter where you started. It's all
Hmm.
about how you're going to finish.
Yeah.
Do not care about, what everybody else got going on. Don't care about all the fame. Don't care about all of that. I never thought I'd be on MTV. I never thought I could Google my name and you could bring up 100 interviews. I never thought there'd be fly me out. I never thought I'd have a restaurant. I never thought none of these things. None of these things. So just let God work. Let God work and let God use you. That's what I'm at with it.
I feel like it's a very inspirational statement that you made, just to let God use you. It sounds like that you have been having a listening ear for God's voice for some time now. Do you feel like that God has more work for you to do?
I think as long as I'm still living, He has more work for me to do. Anxious to continue on working in my purpose. Because sure enough, He probably want me to move a little bit faster, but it's been challenging, because everybody should have their shortcomings. So nobody's perfect.
Right, right, right.
So I just know he still got work for me. I think that's why I'm still here.
So we've talked about you everything that you've done in Indianapolis, and now that you've relocated to Anderson, correct?
Yeah.
So tell me about what that looks like for you now that you're in Anderson. What is on your heart? Like what's your thought process for what you want to do next?
Looking forward to working, but
Okay.
actually, looking forward to working on myself too, with less distractions.
Okay. Makes sense.
That's kind of where I'm at now. I'm liking the peace, be able to get closer to God. You know, I just like kind of the peace. You know, where I can actually be Ron Gee, but Ronald too. You know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there, you know, it's like everybody knows, and now I can just kind of like woosah a little bit. You know, kind of refocus. Because sometimes you'll find yourself helping, but then you kind of lose yourself too in it. So we got to keep feeding ourselves, keep feeding ourselves, so that we can continue to stay powerful.
Do you think that, like when you think of your life full circle, or when you think about from foster care to all of the trials and tribulations, and then to being an inspiration, and then when you think of the story full circle, what do you feel like was the moment that really just changed you to be who you are today? Like from that child to be sitting in the chair where you're at now, like what is that moment that you feel like made you to be who you can sit here today to be, and not go the route that you could have went?
Um, I think that bus stop trip defined. That was the one that just kind of defined where I'm supposed to be doing or where I'm supposed to be going. But I think laying on that highway with my guts hanging out on Christmas Eve, and knowing that, you feel me, that it was like, I don't know if you're familiar with the exit right there, but I was so close to that exit by the hospital, you know, that it could have been, you know, if I wasn't that, it could have been a lot different. So I
Yeah.
think having that right there, you know, kind of just like, okay, now let's try to like make better decisions, how we move. So I think that too, and then nobody's trying to go to the penitentiary
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, yeah.
either.
And your
So
son was with you, right?
yeah,
And he
yeah,
was safe.
yeah, he was safe. So you don't really talk about it a lot, but I hope it don't didn't affect him too much.
And
I
I feel
probably
like that's
did.
a I mean, we all, that may be a part of his testimony that
Yeah,
he shares one day too, that he's able to overcome that, and speak on that to people who
yeah,
he wouldn't have been able to speak to before. But I'm sure that's a part of your testimony
yeah,
too, is that he was safe.
yeah.
Do you have, if there's anything that you could leave with our viewers here at Testimonial Tuesday, is there any favorite quote, any favorite scripture, anything that's got you, a gospel song that's got you through when tough times come, that you want to leave?
Um, my base quote is: "There's no such thing as strangers. We're all family." Um, be thankful, be thankful for everything that you do have. Um, and just try to do God's work. Just try your best to do God's work. Continue on fight temptation and keep striving.
And I encourage you to keep striving. Don't,
Yeah,
I mean, definitely listen for his voice. And I think that, coming to Anderson to be able to woosah, if I can use
right.
that term, is a good thing. Sometimes, we're so used to fighting, even if it's the good fight, that we forget that sometimes that we need some solitude as well. So
Yeah,
I encourage you to keep your hands in God's hand, and but don't stop working.
nah, I can't stop
I
working.
do want to thank you for sitting and joining with me in the temple for Testimonial Tuesday. It's been a joy to listen to your story. You definitely have a testimony that everyone needs to hear. So I thank you for sitting with me.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Testimonial Tuesdays in the temple. Amen.